Right, how are you doing? It doesn't look it, but I'm really struggling. I'm having a motivational blip. Really struggling to get the motivation up to come out in the garage. It's Sunday, so full day on the car, but I just spent the last 3.5 hours editing a video. And then, yeah, then you've got to drag yourself up out the seat and come out here and start doing some stuff. So the car is still looking fantastic. That does give me a bit of motivation actually coming in and seeing the car. But I've just got boring prep work to do at the moment, and I just want the car done. I could really, maybe I'd do it. Maybe I'll just book a few days off work and get really stuck into it, because the odd day here and there, it's really, you know, you find hundreds of other things you need to be doing instead. It is, so the weather's improved a bit, so for me, I'm a fair weather golfer. Do like to play golf, so that takes a lot of time. But I've got my boot lid ready to go. I need to prep the doors, the bonnet and that sort of thing and get them all done. So I think to help myself with the motivation, I've got those lovely Mistral mod wheels, powder coated in white with the John Cooper centres. There is no reason they can't go on the car now. The car is at the point where we're starting to put it back together. So I think to give myself a bit of motivation, I'm going to go up in the loft, I'm going to get those wheels out. I'm going to get those wheels fitted on the car and give myself a bit of a motivational boost. What do you guys do when the motivation drops a little bit? How do you get yourself going? I do find it more and more of a struggle nowadays. I think it's probably an age thing. But yeah, let me get these wheels back on and we'll see what it looks like. I'm sure that'll give me the boost I need. Back in a minute. Right, let's see if we can go and get some motivation then to get boring stuff done, prep work. See what all these wheels look like. Bit of sun out today. Not particularly hot, but it's nice. That looks awesome, doesn't it? I have put the wheels on it before just to have a look, but I think this is the first time I've put the wheels on with the roof painted on the car as well. And I think, yeah, the wheels and roof just set it off, don't they? I get asked lots of times if it's an old English white roof. It's not, it's Rover Diamond White, which is what they painted all the later Rover Mini roofs in. Rover Diamond White, they weren't Old English White. Old English White is quite a darker, creamier colour. So I had the roof done in the original Rover Diamond White and I had the wheels powder coated in Diamond White as well. And I think they look really nice. Yeah, really pleased with them. Definitely giving me a bit of motivation. Again, paint's a few weeks old now. All looking really good. If I'm ultra critical, there is orange peel on the tops of these front wings, but I think I'll probably DA it back a bit or wet flat it back a bit, wet polish, and I think that'll be fine. Right, so there's a bit of motivation for the day. Let's get in the bonnet, in the garage, sorry, and get on with some boring work. Whew, I'm bored of that already. So I have DA'd it down. It's very difficult to get everywhere just with a DA, so I've been using Scotch-Brite pads. These are medium. I don't know what they're equivalent to, maybe equivalent of like 240 grit or something like that, maybe a little bit finer than that, but it's useful for getting in all these corners and everything like that. I've made a really good job of the ribs, because what I'm probably going to do with this boot is the same as what I've done on Project Sprout. So I'm probably going to fit one of those boot kits from Stitched Up Interiors. And I actually, on Sprout, I actually specified to have the infill panels for in here, so you still had the frame of the boot exposed, but all the horrible bits inside were covered over with a trim. I'm probably going to do that on this. I need to contact Peter there and see about getting a kit for this. I've also just gone round and I've cure rusted anywhere there was, you know, start of surface rust. But I noticed this edge down the bottom here, well, all over, there's no seam sealer on that. I can't remember whether there is on newer minis, but I'm going to apply a small bead of seam sealer the whole way round, just because obviously water goes down, gets trapped between the panels and rots it away, which is why we've got a bit of corrosion down the bottom here. Not so much of a worry up the top. I'm not sure whether the skin has been replaced or not, but a bit of seam sealer won't do any harm. So yeah, next up I think I need to wait for that cure rust to dry, seam seal it, bit of etch primer on the bare areas, and then that'll be ready for paint. I'm really going to have to be careful about prepping these panels back up again, because they've had a fair bit of handling afterwards. So, you know, grease and oils in your skin and that. I always wear gloves, but in fact I've probably used these gloves for doing oily bits as well, so I really need to make sure those panels are properly degreased. Let me get the bonnet next and we'll have a look at that. So, the bit where they always usually go, down the front here, in this lip, absolutely fine. There's a few bits of spider rust I noticed there. There's some there. Yeah, I don't think anywhere else. I think this bonnet has definitely been repainted, because there's, yeah, it's definitely been repainted, that bonnet. But it may be the original bonnet. I don't know whether it's been replaced. It looks in pretty good nick on this side. Let me turn it over and have a look. Right, so on this side, this lip is good. The frame is all good on this side. I will have to be careful with prep, because this is oily. This is obviously where there's been oil leaks under the bonnet and it gets sprayed up underneath. As you can see, there's some rust up here, but it is just surface rust, almost where the paint hasn't adhered to the panel. So I'm not convinced this is the original bonnet. It may well have been replaced. It's certainly been painted, but as you can see, the quality of the paint is just really, really poor. Not even sure that's been primed. I do have a bit of work to do though. So down in this corner, I mean, it's only where the bonnet prop goes. It's just this bit of, last bit of the frame in here. Obviously we've got a bit of corrosion here, so I'm gonna have to chop out this bit here and replace it. It's not welded directly to the face of the bonnet. It's welded, you can just about see some spot welds, one there, one there, one there. So 3 spot welds. So I might even just cut this bit out carefully and fabricate a piece to go in there. So it's a bit of a pain, because that'll take, yeah, that's probably an hour and a half's work by the time I've faffed around. So let me get on with it and get it done. But generally, rest of the bonnet, you look underneath the lip, is all pretty good. So this bonnet would be good to go, just a bit of a repair to do over there, and then a bit of cleaning up to do. Right, I'll turn over and show you the welding in a moment. The GoPro battery went dead, so I thought I couldn't film another bit, so I thought I'd just get on with DA and some of it off. But it's quite interesting. Like the rest of the panels on the car, what I'm trying to do is DA back to the primer. I don't really want to go right back to bare metal, just because I'm not using a booth. It's parked in my garage. I can't afford, or I don't have the time to spray it straight away, so I don't want bare metal exposed for a week, couple of weeks. So what I've been trying to do is go back to the primer. So of the original paint, you've got the bare metal, you've then got what is probably a sealer, I would think, something like that. Then you've got the primer, then you've got the base, and then you've got the lacquer. But this is really interesting. Can you see here? You can see the remnants of a John Cooper signature and a bonnet stripe. So either this car or whatever this bonnet come off at some stage had bonnet stripes and John Cooper signatures. But as you can see through the layers of paint, so you've got bare metal, sealer, primer, base coat, lacquer, and then we've got what looks like, probably hard to see, a black primer, and then another base coat, and then another lacquer. So this bonnet has definitely been repainted, and the lacquer on it is really thick. It's taken quite a lot to get through that initial lacquer, and then I guess because we've got so much paint to go through. So yeah, underside of the bonnet, let me flip it over. So I've done those repairs. Not the prettiest in the world, but it's on there. I could have spent some more time linishing up these welds even more, but to be honest, I know I've said it a few times, but you're never going to see that. The one thing I will do though, so I etch primed and I've 1K primed it. Once it's all painted, I will be making sure that we get cavity wax up behind all these ribs so it doesn't corrode again like that. Can't remember where we got to. Did I mention I love prep work? No, I didn't, because I absolutely hate it. So this bonnet and boot I've probably spent 7-8 hours on now. So bonnet is all rubbed back. I'm going to hit that with some epoxy primer just to give it a bit of protection until it gets painted. The dark black marks are where cure rust has been, so there are various bits of like spider rust on there. Anywhere like that got rubbed back to bare metal, cure rust, and then fingers crossed that won't cause me a problem. But I know rust can be a right pain, but it has literally gone back to bright shiny bare metal. And then on the inside, it would be very easy just to skip this over quickly and just, you know, do half the decent job. But you know me, I like doing it properly. So it's all been rubbed back. You know, not quite as far as on the top, but again, I've gone back to the primer. And then it's all black at the moment because that's all been cure rusted. So again, we're going to put a bit of epoxy primer on there. And then that then will be ready pretty much for paint. And then our boot lid, I think I did actually start out on the boot lid, didn't I? The boot lid, I've sealed up all the inside of that seam around the edge here. So that will then get some epoxy primer on it in a moment as well. Right, that's all epoxy primed now. The epoxy primer I use is this 1K Pro XL epoxy. I use it quite sparingly. My thinking is, I mean, I use it like a sealer. So if there's any bare metal anywhere, or there's anywhere that I'm worried I might get a reaction, I use the epoxy as sort of a barrier. That's kind of what I've picked up online. That's what they tend to recommend it for. It's not a true primer in the true sense of the word. You can't sand it back or anything like that, but I do use it as kind of like a sealer. So, and my thinking is the more sort of 1K paint you put on a car and the more stuff you spray on there, the more chance there is of stuff reacting. So I tend to use it pretty sparingly. So just a quick dusting over of epoxy primer. You can see the underside of that bonnet should come out really nice actually. We've got a bit of a repair up there, looks fine. I was considering going down the Mark Simpson route because he Raptor lined the inside of the bonnet, used Dupol Raptor. I do have some spare, but again, I'm a little bit worried about mixing paint schemes, and yeah, I've got nothing to hide. I've spent a lot of time prepping that all up, so it should look just as good as the top half of the bonnet. So why hide it? So that's ready now. That's ready for paint. Boot lid is ready for paint. Seam sealer looks a bit neater. It looked a bit messy when I just started out originally, but that's all good to go now. Both sides. Yeah, that's all ready for filler primer now. I need to do the doors, and then it's little bits and bobs like the bonnet bracket, the bonnet stay, the seam seals, all the little bits and bobs that are a bit of a pain to do. That's going to be a fair amount of prep, but for now, good bit of work. Bonnet repaired. Can't remember how much a bonnet is, but saved the bonnet, saved the boot lid. Yeah, quite happy. Hard work, very boring, but saved a load of money, and it's the original panels going back on the car.